Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is one of the most anticipated RPGs of this year, and I think you'd honestly be surprised by just how exciting and fun this game really is. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 releases on the 4th of February, and I was extremely fortunate enough to receive a review code so I could play the game ahead of its launch and share with you all my thoughts. First things first, I want to give a huge thank you to Warhorse Studios for providing me with a review code, because I have been dying to sink my teeth into this game ever since it was announced last year. I've had the absolute pleasure of putting around 15 hours into this game already, which I know isn't a ton compared to other people's previews, since I know a bunch of content creators were able to play it at the start of this month. However, I only got my code last week and only now had the time to play it. But boy oh boy, what I have played of this game already has been very interesting, and I'm so excited to share some of my thoughts on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This video is serving as my initial impressions on the game, since I have only played 15 hours, and there won't be any spoilers in this video, so you don't need to worry about that, because I wish for anyone who watches this video to experience the story for themselves, because from what I have experienced so far, it is 100% definitely worth experiencing for yourself. Trust me, you'll thank me later. So if you're new around here and enjoy my initial thoughts on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you want to be notified when my next video goes live, go ahead and hit that bell icon. Anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into my initial thoughts on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So I've been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 for about 15 hours on PC, and already I have a lot of good things to say about this game. However, that doesn't mean that this game doesn't have any issues, because it does have a few cons, which we'll get into later. So what is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Well, it's a thrilling story-driven action RPG with one of the richest and most detailed open worlds I have ever experienced. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is set in 15th century medieval Europe, and you get to experience the ultimate adventure through the eyes of our young protagonist Henry, as he embarks on an exciting new adventure. It's a direct sequel to the first game, so where the original game ends, the second game immediately picks up from. As I've already said, I won't be spoiling anything that happens in the story of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but the introduction is fast-paced and intense and does a really good job at introducing you to the basics. The prologue does a really good job at catching you up on all of the main events that happened in the first game. If you're like myself and haven't played the first game, you don't need to worry about playing the original or watching a story recap, since the developers have done a really good job at summarizing what happened previously in the prologue. However, if you've played the first Kingdom Come Deliverance and remember the gameplay mechanics and story of the original, this game gives you the choice to skip these options, which is a really nice addition. To provide an example and to avoid spoilers, at the very start of the game, someone asks Henry what happened previously in his life, which is obviously covered in the first game, and then the player is then given the choice in the dialogue window to give the full story, or they can decide to cut a long story short and quickly summarize what had happened, which would be preferred by returning players, since they don't need another huge breakdown as to what had happened previously. In addition to that, the prologue isn't slow or boring, which may seem like a chore to get through, which I find most recent open world RPGs suffer from. The prologue is executed to perfection, and once you've learned the basics and are caught up to speed on the story with what is happening now, it throws you straight into the thick of things. After you've completed the game's prologue, you are then let loose into this game's magnificent, breathtaking open world. I honestly can't tell you how good this game's open world is, and combined with the game's gorgeous graphics, it just makes you say, wow. That could be because I have been playing on PC with ultra settings. However, from some of the official trailers and gameplay snippets which have been captured on consoles such as Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, the game looks just as good. Also, to add, playing on PC with ultra settings, I haven't found there to be any hiccups or issues whatsoever. The performance has been as smooth as butter. From what I have seen of the original, it still seemed to be an incredibly detailed game, but it lacked that level of detail and fidelity that made it memorable. Yet Warhorse Studios have built upon everything the original did great and made this world truly fantastic. This game honestly has one of the most immersive open worlds I have ever played. I'm not even kidding. There are a lot of great open world RPGs out there, but when it comes to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, this game really shines. The world is so fleshed out with detail and life that truly captivates the player's attention and just sucks them right into everything that is happening around them. When I was let free to explore wherever, I didn't know what to see or do first because I was overwhelmed with the amount of endless possibilities due to the sheer fantastic world. It really is just amazing and so polished. The towns are all full of life and have their own unique characteristics about them. The open fields and dense woods are just full with vegetation and detail that truly heighten your immersion when traveling across the vast lands. I don't know much about the era of when this game takes place, but everything feels historically accurate and authentic. The world is completely alive with NPCs and animals. All of the NPCs aren't just there to make the game feel full without serving any purpose either. Each NPC has their own life. They have jobs, responsibilities, homes, and their own unique personalities, and you can interact with pretty much everyone. The first town I had entered, I took a moment to explore and see what the NPCs would be doing, and I was just amazed by how they were all doing their own unique activity. I came across people cutting wood, someone repairing a carriage, and a few men making deliveries. It was incredible. To put this to the test too, and to make sure this game wasn't just spawning these NPCs in at these specific locations at any time of day, I decided to follow some guy who was carrying a sack. I randomly followed this guy through the town where I noticed he had made a delivery at the trader. Then he went on to give some money to a beggar, and afterwards he returned to his storage to grab another sack from a pile he had sitting there so he could continue to make another delivery. So yes, every single NPC has their own life. They'll wake up, go to work, have a break, finish work, enjoy the evening by visiting the tavern, or head home before they get changed and go to sleep. It's brilliant stuff, and only this type of detail is something I'd only dream of having in a video game 10 years ago. Depending on your smell or appearance, NPCs will comment on these things, saying you stink so you need to have a wash, or how you look like a beggar. Interestingly enough, I had gotten into a brawl with an enemy and I was beaten to a pulp. I was pretty much dying. So I was covered in blood and was badly hurt and in need of some urgent help. So when I was looking for help, the NPCs who I had passed were commenting on my state, asking if I was okay or do I need any help, which just adds that extra depth of realism, making the world feel truly alive. In addition to that, your smell and appearance will also impact how successful you are with the choices you've decided to select during conversations with other characters. So if I looked and smelled like a peasant, I would have no chance of being successful with the option to charm someone over during a conversation. It's so cool. The dialogue options that are available to you during these conversations with other characters is so expansive and allows for you to tackle different situations however you like. The opportunity to select unique dialogue options which can impact the conversation drastically, which could lead to a different outcome, appears frequently as the conversation progresses, allowing for plenty of freedom and helping the player choose exactly who they want to be in this world. You can attempt to charm a character to receive a select outcome, or decide to be forceful and aggressive with them, which could lead to something else entirely happening. Yet how successful you are with these speech checks depends on the personality traits you've decided to select so far. For example, if you've chosen to be an understanding person through all of the dialogue options you have selected so far, and then suddenly attempt to become aggressive with someone in a different speech check, it's more than likely that you'll fail this because of the traits you've displayed so far to people. So it's important that you decide early on what type of character you want Henry to be. What choices you make also impacts your reputation with that person or town that you've dealt with. Good reputation will lead to town folks greeting you in a nice manner and giving you discounts on goods along with other nice things. And obviously a bad reputation will be the complete opposite of that. Even exhausting dialogue options can have a negative impact on Henry's reputation with that person or town. So it's best to look over the dialogue options you can select before exhausting them all, because some of them can impact your reputation in a negative way. Lastly, the dialogue with every single character I have interacted with so far is done really well. The characters are all fully fleshed out, and the conversations are done really well and feels genuine while also flowing naturally. The sheer depth to realism makes every encounter or situation feel so unique, which could lead to endless possibilities. It makes every one of your choices have real consequences that you have to live with, and something that you will remember. There was this moment when I was venturing towards a lake where I was attempting to find a wagon which I had heard crashed, and some of its supplies got lost in the water, when I came across a gentleman on his horse. Now, at the start of the game, you don't have a horse, and I didn't have the money to purchase one either. So I thought, since I was in the middle of nowhere with no witnesses, I'll go ahead and steal this gentleman's horse, which will help me get from A to B much faster. I don't want to kill this guy either, so I attempted to throw him off his horse, inevitably failing. He then chased after me with an axe, so I stopped and told him I was sorry and I didn't want to fight. He forgave me, and in a moment of peace, I sprinted to his horse and pulled myself onto it. I trotted off slowly while the guy chased after me. Then out of nowhere, these two bandits, armed to the teeth, came out of the bushes and just ambushed the poor guy and killed him. Then the bandits proceeded to chase me, but they seemed to be tough opponents, so I led them to the nearest town, which was quite close by. I got to the town and the townsfolk came to defend me against the bandits, and it turned into one huge fight with the townsfolk and myself against these two bandits who were armed to the teeth. I started swinging my sword and accidentally sliced one of the townsfolk, which then led to me killing one of the bandits, and the townsfolk took care of the other one. I thought, phew, thank God that chaos is over. However, the guy who I accidentally sliced with my sword reported me to the guards, and then I was caught, failed a speech check, and finally I was publicly punished by being whipped. It was such a unique moment that I had just experienced that made me realize the amount of endless possibilities you can create in this world from just one silly little choice. That leads me onto the combat. Now, whenever I have watched reviews or spoken to my friends who have played the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, they've always stated that the combat was clunky and a bit messy to get a hang of. Going into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, with it being the first game out of the two I have played, I was expecting the combat to be once again clunky. However, during the combat tutorial, I found it super easy to learn the gameplay mechanics. A few sword fights and fisticuffs later on allowed me to become more experienced with the combat and realize how enjoyable it actually is. Unfortunately, since I have not played the first game, I can't tell you exactly what Warhorse Studios have done to improve the combat, but I found it to flow really well. Every single combat scenario I have experienced so far, whether that be a sword fight or a brawl, I've always found it to be deeply engaging. During these battles, I had to think about the attack I wished to perform against my opponent. It's not like any other game where you just mash the attack button and hope to take care of your opponent easily. You constantly got to be paying attention to your opponent and pay close attention to what armor they're wearing or where they are holding their weapon. You've also got to be extremely mindful about your stamina, since you can't just spam these attacks when your opponent leaves an opening. Every attack or block you perform depletes your stamina, so you have to maintain that well. You can, however, perform a perfect block which doesn't reduce your stamina and then follow up with an attack. But to be successful, you have to make sure you swing your sword in the direction of where your opponent isn't holding their weapon. You've then got to think about weakening certain side of your opponent's body, or if there is more than one, how exactly are you going to fight both while ensuring you can properly defend yourself. Then to add a whole nother level on top of the combat, you've got to think about how your weapon handles, since a mace will handle differently than a sword, and you got to think if your weapon will be effective against the armor your opponent is wearing. I've fought more than 24 enemies at this point during my 15 hours of playtime, and have not found the combat to be repetitive at all, since each single combat scenario offers its own unique challenge. Besides, sometimes you will meet a foe who you know you'll stand no chance against, given your weaponry and armor, and you just have to accept that you can't fight them, and you have to flee to escape, or lead them to a good standing citizen who will assist you in taking them down. There's so much more to combat that I have not experienced, since I have learned from certain travelers that you can learn new techniques which will make you more adept in combat. This game is pure realism, since you the player are deeply connected to Henry when you are first set free in the open world. During your adventures, you have to think about Henry's well-being. You have to eat, sleep, take good care of yourself by staying clean. If you are cut, you have to bandage the wound, otherwise Henry will lose blood and bleed out. The same can be said if you don't eat food. Henry's health and stamina will be impacted, and eventually over time, if you're still not eating, he will die from hunger. Also, his energy levels have to be considered, because if you don't get plenty of sleep or rest, once again, Henry's health and stamina will be impacted, and if he's overly tired, he can die from exhaustion. I personally love these types of mechanics. However, I can understand that many people may dislike this and see it as a chore with constantly having to take care of Henry. It can definitely interrupt the playing experience, especially if you just wish to streamline through the story, because Henry will be there begging to eat an apple, otherwise he'll succumb to starvation. Side quests are also extremely exciting and interesting, and I have found myself doing all that are available at the moment before I progress with the story. To avoid spoilers with these two, because if you do pick up Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I wish for you to experience this all for yourself. These side quests may seem simple and boring when you first accept them, however as you progress them along, they soon unravel to become something so unexpected and exciting. So far, there are only a handful of certain aspects of the game that I dislike. The first one is saving, since you can't just save your progress whenever. The only options you have to save your game is either by drinking a potion, which you need to either buy or make with ingredients you can find in the world. The other option is by quitting the game, and then there is the autosave function, which happens after each cutscene or major interaction with a character. So for example, if I was exploring and was ambushed by a group of bandits, I couldn't just quick save there without a potion and reload from that point if I died. I would have to fight or hopefully escape the bandits, but if that failed and I did die, I would go all the way back to my last save, which could be from 20 minutes ago. The same goes for saving before major interactions with characters. If you know that this conversation with this character could have different possibilities and you want a desired outcome, you can't just save scum before it unless you had a save potion. You'd have to go ahead with the conversation and accept whatever outcome that happens. I kind of understand and appreciate what the developers were trying to do here with this function, with making the player live with their choices and make every situation meaningful, while also influencing different playthroughs so the player decides to do something differently next time. But all in all, this mechanic doesn't really work that well. I guess it's one of them that you either like or dislike. The only other issue I had with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the healing. With the healing, you can only restore your health by sleeping or by drinking a health potion, which again you can either purchase, make or find, with the latter being extremely rare to come across. You can't just sleep either to restore your health, since if you've only recently rested, you can't sleep again. And if you've had a long sleep to restore most of your health, you can't just have another long sleep so soon after, and you're only allowed to have a short one, which will only heal you slightly. So they are my initial thoughts on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 after 15 hours of playtime, and I can't wait to continue playing. I'll be posting my full review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 when the game releases on the 4th of February. I've said it so many times in this video already, but it really is one of the best open world RPGs I have ever played, and the level of realism is outstanding and is the main selling point. So if you like your realism in video games and want to truly invest so many hours into a game, then Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is absolutely for you. If you played the original Kingdom Come Deliverance, I guess this is everything you would want from a sequel and more. If you've liked this game from what I have spoke about, go ahead and wishlist this game because I highly recommend it. Once again, a massive thank you to Warhorse Studios for providing me with a review code so I could experience this game early. So what do you think of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. Also, if you do enjoy content like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click on the bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. With that being said, I want to give a special shout out to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters: Cyberboy, Demonic Salsa, Salvi, George Kent, Luke AV, BPG, Veggie Hot Dog, and Whaley. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.